My dear students, a warm welcome to all of you for another session of our class. I hope all are safe and healthy. In the previous class, we studied social diversities in two small countries, Belgium and Sri Lanka. We also discussed the majoritarian measures in Sri Lanka and how that majoritarian measures created a feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. From this feeling of alienation, Sri Lankan Tamils formed many political organizations and they put forward some demands. My dear students, are you ready to study the demands of the Sri Lankan Tamils? Yes, very good. Today, we can study the demands of the Sri Lankan Tamils. To study these demands, we can have a comparison with the majoritarian measures in Sri Lanka. Do you remember which are the majoritarian measures? First one, Sinhala became the only official language of the country. Then what will be the demand of the Sri Lankan Tamils? First demand was to recognize Tamil as the official language. There, Sinhala government made Sinhala as the only official language. Here, Tamils demanded to recognize their language Tamil as the official language of the country. The second majoritarian measure was that government followed many preferential policies that favored Sinhala applicants to university position and government jobs. The demand of the Sri Lankan Tamils is also connected with that demand. Here, Sri Lankan Tamils demanded to get equal right and opportunity in securing jobs and education. They need equality of opportunity in education and jobs like the Sinhala speakers. The third demand of the Sri Lankan Tamils was regional autonomy. Autonomy in their region. In which region Sri Lankan Tamils were settled? Excellent. In the northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. So, they demanded to form an independent Tamil Eram or an independent Tamil state in northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. These are the three demands put forward by the Sri Lankan Tamils. The demands were given by the Sri Lankan Tamils. Who is the granting authority? The government of the Sinhala speakers. Then what will be the attitude of the Sinhala speakers towards these demands of the Sri Lankan Tamils? Do you believe that they are ready to agree these demands? No, the Sinhala government was not ready to agree the demands of the Sri Lankan Tamils. That resulted in a civil war in Sri Lanka. What is meant by the term civil war? All of you are familiar with the war. But what is a civil war? Civil war means a violent conflict between opposing groups within a country that becomes so intense and it appears like a war. The specialties of a civil war, it is within a country, between the two opposing groups within that country, that becomes so intense and it appears like a war. Then civil war happened in Sri Lanka. Then we can go to the results of the Sri Lankan civil war. Normally, a war has some common results. Here also that happened. Before discussing about the results of Sri Lankan civil war, we can go through these pictures. Here you can see many people were killed. Many people were injured. It is a common result of the war. In this Sri Lankan civil war, thousands of people were killed from both the communities. Between which communities the war happened? Sinhala speakers and Tamil speakers. From that two communities, from the Sinhala speaking community and Tamil speaking community, thousands of people were killed. Listen this picture. Many people lost their livelihoods and many were forced to leave the country as refugees. This is another result of Sri Lankan civil war. Lost their livelihoods. So they were forced to leave their country as refugees. In 9th standard, you already studied the economic development of Sri Lanka. There was huge development in economy, health, education, etc. in Sri Lanka. But because of this war, what happened to that developments? It affected the development of the country. We can see the destroyed buildings, monuments, religious institutions, etc. There was a terrible setback to social condition, cultural condition and economic conditions of the country. These are the results of the Sri Lankan civil war. Now it is clear what happened in Sri Lanka because of the social diversities. The majority community was not ready to share power with the minority community, and the majority forced their dominance over the minority. That resulted in a civil war. Now we have to look what happened in another country. Which is that country? Yes, Belgium. What happened in Belgium? In Belgium, the leaders wanted to make unity among the diverse social groups. Which are the diverse social groups in Belgium? Mainly Dutch speakers and French speakers. The leaders tried to solve the problem between Dutch speaking community and French speaking community. To find a solution, they amended their constitution 4 times between 1970 and 1993. After this amendment, they got a solution to their problem. That is known as the elements of Belgian model. Belgian model, that means that model adopted in Belgium was acceptable to other countries also. So it is called a model. We can accept something from that. Which are the elements of Belgian model? First element of the Belgian model is the number of ministers in the central government shall be equal from the Dutch-speaking community and the French-speaking community. Equal number of ministers from Dutch speakers and French speakers in the central government. So, no single community can take a decision unilaterally. So, they need the cooperation of each other to take any measure. Second point is, the central government have been given many powers to the state governments of the 2 regions. Which are the 2 regions in Belgium? Very good. Flemish region and Wallonia region. These 2 regions have their own state governments. Central government given some powers to these state governments of Flemish region and Wallonia region. But the state governments are not subordinated to the central government. They have their own independent powers. Third point is, Brussels has a separate government with equal representation. Brussels is the capital of Belgium. Brussels had a separate government with equal representation from Dutch-speaking community and French-speaking community. Who were majority in Brussels? Dutch speakers or French speakers? Yes, French speakers. French speakers are 80% with a large majority. Dutch speakers are only 20%. But these French speakers in Brussels, with their big majority, they accepted. What was the reason for that? Their majority. The reason was that Dutch speakers accepted equal representation in the central government. They were majority in the country. But that Dutch speakers were ready to accept equal representation in the central government from 2 communities. So, the French speakers also accepted equal representation from 2 communities in the government in Brussels. Fourth point of the Belgian model is, other than the central government and state government, there is a third type of government in Belgium. It is known as community government. What is meant by the term community government? Government formed by one community. That is the simple meaning. It is correct here. It is a government elected by the people belonging to one language community. Which are the language communities in Belgium? Dutch, French and German. Dutch speakers, they formed their own community government. The French speakers elected their own community government. The German speakers also elected their own community government. This community government has the power to deal with the education, language, culture, literature, etc. of each communities. These are the 4 elements of the Belgian model. By the effort of these Belgian leaders, they successfully solved the problem between Dutch-speaking community and French-speaking community. Otherwise, if the leaders are not ready to find a solution, that will lead to a war like Sri Lanka. But the leaders successfully solved that problem and made unity and peace within that country, Belgium. That effort of the leaders was appreciated by all other countries of Europe. Then the European Union was formed by the European countries. They selected Brussels as the headquarters of the European Union. Belgium successfully solved their problems. Then it can be adopted by all other countries of Europe if they have problem. So they selected the capital of Belgium, Brussels, as the headquarters of the European Union. Here you can see the picture of the European Union Parliament in Belgium. Today we can wind up the class. We discussed about the demands of the Sri Lankan Tamils, how that resulted in a civil war in Sri Lanka, and what were the consequences of the Sri Lankan civil war. Then we also discussed how the Belgian leaders successfully solved the problem between the Dutch speakers and French speakers in Belgium. My dear students, you read the textbook and study well. Best wishes to all of you. We can see in the next class. Thank you.